All right. Okay, so welcome everyone again to today's webinar. I am Leslie Barland, and I am the Green Business Network Program Manager at Bridging the Gap. Before we get started, I just have a few quick notes about today's webinar. First, all attendees are in listen-only mode. We, of course, hope that you will have some questions for us during the presentation today, and you can use the Q&A feature or the chat feature that's located in the toolbar at the bottom of your screen, and submit any questions there, and we will get to them at the end of the presentation. And then we are recording this webinar, so within a few days, I should have it up on our website at greenbusinessnetworkkc.org. And I'll also be sure to email out today's slides to everybody. I know that we have several people participating in this webinar today who are either new to the Green Business Network or aren't yet members. I encourage you to visit these websites to learn more about not only GBN and how we can help your business with your sustainability goals, but also about the work of our larger organization, Bridging the Gap. I also want to give a huge thank you to our corporate sponsors that help make programs like this one today possible. Another important way that we are supported, like I mentioned before, is through our members. I know that many of you today are already members, and I thank you so much for that support. And I hope that if you're not a member, you'll consider joining, and you can do that on our website or by reaching out to me at any time. We have been busily working to line up some great programs for you this spring in addition to this one. I hope that you'll mark your calendar for our next webinar, which is on April 1st. We'll be taking a look at the newly adopted regional climate plan that was created by Climate Action KC and Mid-America Regional Council. And we'll be having a conversation around the role that businesses can play, the role that businesses will need to play to achieve the plan's goals. And then on May 4th, we'll be hearing from KC Water on their new and impressive green infrastructure project that they have in the West Bottoms, and how their efforts are going to help reduce combined sewer overflows by more than 20% from that central industrial district. All right, so that brings us to today's program. Joining me is our presenter, Jerry Lawson, who is the National Manager for EPA's Energy Star Small Business Program. You know, the topic of saving energy, I don't think it could be any more timely than it is right now with the rolling blackouts and the calls to conserve energy that we all just experienced recently. So I'm excited to have Jerry walk us through what an energy treasure hunt is, how it works, and all of the great tools that his team has developed to help your company be successful in conducting one. And I know that Jerry might highlight this too, but I want to show you this slide, which shows that we have an energy action workbook from the EPA available for download on our website. And from our website, you can click on the resources section. And it's a really great document that talks a lot about steps that your company can take to become more energy efficient. And with that, I want to introduce Jerry Lawson. And Jerry, if you are ready, I will stop sharing my screen so that you can share yours.
Okay. Okay, let me see. The slideshow fired up. Well, thank you, Leslie, and I appreciate everyone's time here today. Let's see. The slideshow is not starting. Can you see my slides, Leslie?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
You're just not in.
There we go. There we go. Okay. Well, thanks everyone for your time. I appreciate you being here, and I got to say, I have told people at EPA that the organization there in Kansas City is really unique, and the word is way overused, but the breadth and depth of sustainability programs that you have there in Kansas City is something really to be proud of, and be sure you're taking full advantage of. Pirates, treasure hunt. These are kind of perhaps humorous, but it's all about saving money. These are actual shots from treasure hunts in larger corporations where they really, as you can tell, really get into it. You don't have to dress up like a pirate, however. Uh, don't worry so much about the numbers here, big savings. What I would call your attention to is who's doing this. Merck, Haynes, Celanese, Honda, Colgate, uh, large companies. The concept of the treasure hunt originated with Toyota, and it caught on pretty quickly with their supply chain, and they exported it to Energy Star and our industrial partners. And then less than a year into it, those of us on the commercial team started paying attention and started adapting the concept to commercial as well. So we'll talk about the COVID environment in a few minutes, but without regard to that, what a normal treasure hunt looks like and what you'll try to emulate in a COVID safe environment is the following. The event, if you will, the treasure hunt usually occurs over 2 or 3 days. The real focus is on no cost and low cost savings. Really, it's what has been missed. It's with your internal staff, and is typically used as a team building and engagement effort. Uh, it often follows a professional energy audit or your facilities people having done significant upgrades. And here's the catch. Here's what's really interesting is that the corporations tell us that even after the professionals have done a really good job, you bring in someone from the warehouse, someone in sales or accounting, an administrative assistant, put together a green team, and then you show them, provide them some of the tools that we have, notably the treasure map for your type of facility, and turn these people loose with a clipboard and see what else they can find. So bottom line, typically an additional 10 or 15% savings are achieved through your non-professional green team, just casting fresh eyes on the situation and maybe asking logical, non-technical questions. So it is very interesting. And there's a reason this thing has legs and it really works, that there's real savings. Um, you come out with an action plan, and a key is to ultimately share and engage with senior management so decisions are made. So how is this different from an energy audit? We're all for energy audits. They have a good place, and there's a time for that. And you want an energy audit that's affordable and competent. And it's like purchasing any product or service. You have to really be sure you're getting the right thing. But here's the thing: an energy audit is often seen as external, and sometimes people who have responsibilities in facility management or budget or maintenance might feel a little threatened with an outside audit. That's just kind of human nature. They're perfectly successful all the time, but a good auditor, and we do this at Energy Star too, is we want to let the facility management and the budget people and the people taking care of the building and the processes know that you're on their side if you're the auditor. But still, you've got someone from the outside, and ultimately, it's not building your internal team. That's maybe the big shortcoming. And really, the treasure hunt is intended to be very, very practical. So highlighted on the left here in the darker color is that it's going to end up probably, if a capital project, something small. And it should be looking at low cost, no cost, day-to-day operations. And it could be looking at any number of areas: energy, water, processes, variable loads. So you'll see when you start looking at treasure maps that there's a lot of ways to go on this. At Energy Star, and if you're not an Energy Star partner, please think about it. Please go to energystar.gov today, look around. The partnership agreement is a simple letter of agreement. If you have an attorney, they'll tell you it's a handshake deal. There's nothing enforceable. There's no cost. It just puts you more in communication with Energy Star. And we've been doing this for nearly 25 years with home builders, commercial owner operators, franchisees, manufacturers, all kinds of partners. We have more than well over 300,000 buildings, commercial and industrial, using our tool called Portfolio Manager. I'll say a little more about that. But we call this the fish hook. Kind of looks like one. The idea is making a commitment, and and it really helps. It's, not the proverbial New Year's resolution. It's making a business commitment to assess your performance. And to do that, Portfolio Manager is a free online tool. You put in your utility billing data, square footage, processes, hours of operation, with sort of remarkably low level of information. It will score your facility against comparable facilities nationally. It's not just against everything, it's against your same type of facility. Within Portfolio Manager, once you have a password protected account, you can determine who shares. It can be run by one person or a team. There can be people with read-only rights, but it's a very powerful tool that Fortune 500 companies who could buy any kind of tool are using this free tool. It helps you within the tool create an action plan, track implementation, and as you keep your utility billing data updated, ideally month by month, but at least quarterly, you're going to get price signals. You're going to get signals. You're going to see this 1 to 100 score change, hopefully getting higher and higher as you become more efficient. There's two things it does with your zip code. One is it's going to look at your kilowatt hours and multiply that by the what's called an emissions factor by your electric utility registered with EPA. This happens behind the scenes. You don't have to do anything. It's going to measure your greenhouse gas emissions your facility is responsible for. And then month by month, you'll see that going down. If you have multiple facilities, they can all be in Portfolio Manager. You can aggregate savings, aggregate pollution prevention, and really it's great for keeping track. And it's a score by EPA scoring within the tool. The second thing the zip code is going to do is it's going to look at 30 years of US Weather Service data. And then as you're entering your first 12 months and then going forward, it's going to continually compare your weather data to 30 years of weather service data for your zip code. What it's going to do is eliminate the really extreme weather, because that's driving your energy cost. We want that out of the picture, the extreme weather, so that what we're really looking at is the efficiency of your facility. So this tool is doing things you just can't do with a spreadsheet, although we know you're all tracking anyway. But go online, take a look at Portfolio Manager. We have a very robust training website with YouTube videos, live webinars. They're all recorded. There's Portfolio Manager 101. There's a lot of fact sheets that you can download. So take a look at that tool. So we think team building is very important. These are, some shots of some different partners around the country. This is the homepage for treasure hunts, energystar.gov/treasure hunt. What you'll see is, let me get a pointer a little better. We do have an entire tip sheet, a fact sheet on COVID-19 treasure hunts, and I'll show you a screenshot of that in a minute. We have a how-to guide for industrial plants, a how-to guide for commercial buildings. There's basically a treasure hunt kit with the guide for commercial or industrial. These are representations. I'll show you some treasure maps. We have pre-programmed Excel spreadsheets for tracking your information and reporting out. And here's sort of a list of some of the resources, the how-to guides, the worksheets. We have videos, we have case studies. What's next? There are next steps once you've done a treasure hunt. as Leslie showed you, the Green Business Network has already co-branded its own edition of the action workbook, and it says for small business, but I know some of you are manufacturers. You'll find good information there. And then while we're on that topic, let me call up on my smartphone here. We have an entire industrial program and industrial teams. We have what we call industrial focus groups. And I know some of you are among these. We have a focus group for petroleum refining, pharmaceutical manufacturing, cement manufacturing, distilled spirits, glass manufacturing, motor vehicles, printing, ready-mix concrete, corn refining, fertilizer manufacturing, iron and steel, petrochemical, pulp and paper. And there's probably some more under development, but I think we probably covered a lot of you that are on the call here. Then we have a tool, some resources called Bring Your Green to Work for your employees. And then at the bottom, also in Spanish, we have the guides and the maps. This is just the top half of the fact sheet on treasure hunts during COVID-19. There is a recorded webinar. This is the webinar is focused on industrial, so I know that is closer to home for some of you. But I would recommend, I know some of you have more commercial type facilities. It's still, I think I sent this, the PDF Leslie has on COVID-19 treasure hunts. It is by and large applicable to commercial as well as to industrial. The workbook Leslie mentioned, what you'll see actually tracks what I was saying a moment ago was the Energy Star process of making a commitment, assessing performance, getting your baseline so you know where you started and where you're going. It's important, ultimately, we think, to recognize achievements, to call out the team and the individuals who are responsible for savings and be sure that they are recognized in all the ways that you might do that. We, at energystar.gov/work, we have a bit of a resource there we call Bring Your Green to Work. You can look at it, compare it to your treasure map. You're probably going to see some overlap. They're separate lists, but go ahead and take a look at this green team checklist. There are posters and tip cards, things you can print. There is a ready to use for lunch and learn PowerPoint show of slides you can download, and then there are best practices for engaging people. So again, this is about getting your green team and your employees engaged. Treasure maps, commercial buildings. What we know and you know is that individual types of buildings and businesses use energy a bit differently. For convenience stores use energy quite a lot differently from hotels and motels, certainly from hospitals, laboratories, restaurants, commercial kitchens, all of these, student housing on the campus. They all use energy a little bit differently, and we have learned over many years from working with partners that have these types of buildings. And in doing so, we have put together these what we call treasure maps that are lists of bullets and links and action items. On the industrial side, we do have specific treasure maps for concrete because it's different from general manufacturing. If you're not concrete, go download the manufacturing plants. I had a pretty strong hand in microbreweries because as the commercial small business guy, I wanted to be sure brew pubs were represented because they also have restaurants typically. So microbreweries is useful all the way on up to a regional size brewery. We did work with the American Brewing Association and they signed off on this. So we typically are working with industry trade groups when we develop these maps. This is just a screenshot of the guide that you can download today. I'll show you a few half pages from the guide. what you'll note is going to walk you through a treasure hunt. We've been through a lot of these with partners. This is a document that we call Evergreen that we keep improving it as we learn from our partners doing hunts. So you're going to see kind of step-by-step guidance to consider. You may have already have done some of these things, or it may not be the right fit for you. You may have other priorities, but this will get you thinking and see a lot of ideas. Key thing is getting your background data ready, getting all your information pulled together so that you can move ahead and not have to stop and start if you're missing some type of information. Gathering materials. Once you do a walkthrough, if it's 2 people with masks who are social distancing, they may be carrying a smartphone or an iPad so that they can show the green team who's elsewhere. But they will need to be sure they have made hopefully a thermal imaging camera, light meters, voltage meters, any kind of special equipment. And again, if you're pulling together a team of non-technical people, turn to your facility management team. They can help supply some of this equipment and maybe a little bit of spot training on how to use it. I love my light meter. I got mine off Amazon for under $30. It does ambient temperature. It converts types of lighting measurements, and it's very sensitive, and they're great. They're great fun. So if you don't have a light meter, you can be a lighting expert pretty quickly. In the small business content, we have guidance on what type of lighting level you should have and what type of facility for hallway, restroom, classroom, sales. Different areas need often a little bit different level of lighting. You don't want too much lighting, glare on your screen, those kind of issues. Talking about the team, whether you have people all inside, outside, if you have specialty consultants involved, vendors, these are all things to think about. You want management's buy-in. You want them to understand what's going on so that they will honor and respect what you achieve, because that's how they're going to save a little more money. There's a lot of emphasis here on preparation, a pre-hunt meeting, a lot of Q&A, then getting down to the treasure hunt itself, and another meeting, a kickoff. We have a sample agenda, and I know I'm not showing you the whole page, but you can go grab this after the meeting. More on the actual hunt, on pulling together your presentation for management to show them what you found, and pulling some calculated savings out of the detail sheet, which will help you do calculations. Prioritizing opportunities. You'll find probably multiple opportunities. You want to go with the no cost, the low cost, the things that are behavioral, and maybe just standard operations, or especially if you may find some deferred maintenance, you want to get that taken care of. It's good to know, keep everyone straight, who has what roles, responsibilities. That's probably something I should have said up front, and I think that's probably is up front if you saw the full page. Having your schedule. Communication is important, and you probably have people who are better and worse at communication. So a lot of people with great technical skills are often not great communicators or writers or verbal. It's not always true. I work with engineers and architects all the time who are better than me at a lot of things. But see who's great at communication and get them to help you so that you're really getting your success across to management. And then you may, in your treasure hunt, note that you need to do more follow-up. And this is something too that you maybe want to take a look at every 6 months or a year. That was the bottom half of the page. Okay, videos. I know we have one. We have multiple videos. I know we have Toyota, Honda. We have some non-motor vehicle uh, success stories and videos. Preparing your management is important. I've referenced that. Part of this is in the process, to the degree you don't have it, is getting a good inventory of equipment. Ideally, that's something your facility management team will already have, and they can input or provide to the treasure hunt. Something to think about is energy is being used all the time. You know, during a shift or when there's no one working ostensibly. So you want to do a bit of your treasure hunt in non-operating hours. See what's on, what kind of security lighting, and what's going on when you're not at full tilt. That's the overview. I will be happy to have emails from anyone. I know that I asked Leslie up front. I think there's people from University of Kansas. There's some people that we call service and product providers. Those of you who are energy professionals, I think maybe got HVAC distribution and warehouse, but some of you are the ones who are out providing the services and products. We have a special partnership designation for you at Energy Star. We call it SPP, Service and Product Provider. It's a separate letter of agreement, but getting involved with us entitles you to use the Energy Star on your business cards and letterhead and website and all of that, and puts you in direct communication with us. We do all we can to promote the business of our service and product provider partners. I think we have a pharmaceutical, and we do have a focus group there. I think we may have an ad agency online, which is generally in a commercial office building. You would be in my wheelhouse to work with. I think there's maybe a fertilizer chemical manufacturer online, and we have a focus group for that. So email me, particularly if you're industrial or manufacturing, and I'll put you in touch with our industrial team. And everyone else I would invite to be in touch with me if you have follow-up questions about becoming a partner. You don't have to be a partner at all to download our tools, to take our training, to get notices about webinars. So, but we love to have you as partner. It's just better communication for all of us. And I think maybe Kansas City Zoo is online. I'd love to talk with you guys. We do have, we typically have people like I'm not much of a specialist. I'm a generalist working across small business in all types of buildings. But we do have a couple of staff people who've worked with museums, and I think maybe with a zoo or two. So I want to encourage everyone, whatever your facility type is, if I didn't touch on it or you want to follow up, just email me and I'll connect you with our specialist. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and see if we have some questions.
All right. Thank you, Jerry. Yeah, so if you have any questions, I enabled it so that you can raise your hand if you want, and I can actually let you, if you're attending the webinar, ask the question if you want directly, or you can post them in the Q&A. I do see one question that came in from Samantha that says, what are some key points that we can share with management teams to encourage them to take part and facilitate a treasure hunt?
I'll work with you on that because I know we will have some bullets on successful communication. We've had any number of people do treasure hunts, and I will check with our communications people. I mean, of course, mainly saving some more money, building the team, encouraging engagement among employees. Really, it's educating people to make them more aware that they can help the bottom line by keeping efficiency in mind, and they can all learn a lot too. Ultimately, we do have Partner of the Year awards. Until the pandemic, we had annual awards banquets in Washington and would have nearly 1,000 people in from around the country who had earned recognition from Energy Star. At this time, we're having to do that virtually. Award applications are due in the late fall, usually with a December 31 deadline. So there's a lot of time between now and then for your organization to get engaged. And we have just a lot of ways. I mean, we look for a high level of interactivity for our award winners. You know, what are you doing to use our tools and training? What are you doing that's innovative? What problems have you solved? Are you playing a larger role in your community? We try to look at a lot of ways, and we're happy. We like to do a lot of recognition. You know, we think it's very important to recognize success, and your own doing your internal recognitions of success is something we look at. So uh, I would be happy to, Samantha, to have an email and go back and forth and maybe to check on some of the key bullet points for sharing with management and getting their support. Uh, I see Ed, I'm looking at chat. Ed has a question about implementing in lease space, and you're a tenant. About uh, we, Ed, shoot me an email. We do have specific information and support for tenants, and we have arguments to make to the landlord. You know how it's good for them to maintain their property and keep rents low by keeping things efficient. So we have you know, strategies for tenants, as well as some thoughtful ideas on where it does make sense. You know, often, maybe not comprehensively, but there's certain aspects of lighting, for example, that add a lot to your productivity and your comfort, where some lighting upgrades, uh, not to go all out perhaps and spend all the money you might, but to strategically look at lighting, depending on what, you know, you might use it if you're in retail for marketing, or just to be sure that your employees have good lighting. But, you know, maybe you don't do everything since you're a tenant. And there are other things that are kind of no cost, low cost that you can do to control costs as a tenant. And I'm not up to date on this, but if you go to energystar.gov, and anybody can do this on whatever your question, we have a search engine up on the upper right. So Ed, go to energystar.gov and type in tenant. We do have a new tenant recognition program that I'm not totally up to date on, but there is recognition for tenants.
And I would also add, Jerry, I mean, from me looking through the treasure hunt checklist, a lot of the items on there too, I mean, like you said, it focuses on low hanging fruit, and a lot of it's the behavioral changes that,
Right.
you know, you can make, and you can find energy saving opportunities, even if you don't have control over, you know, some of the other
Right.
larger things like lighting. And
yeah, I mean, this, you know, you can, we can arm the tenants with a little bit of perhaps some negotiating tips and ideas, because, you know, an intelligent landlord is really going to want to maintain the space. And to the degree that they can keep things efficient, they can have some control and have competitive rent prices. So let's see. Ginger, I would be interested in that as well. We lease space at the downtown airport. Okay. So, what, again, each of you, Ed, Ginger, anybody, again, go search for tenant at energystar.gov, but also shoot me an email if you want, and I'll be sure you find everything available for tenants. Other
Jerry, I have a
questions?
question. How much time on average would you say companies need to spend on kind of the planning phase? Like, if if a company decides that they do want to conduct an energy treasure hunt, walk me through kind of the timeline a little bit, how long it takes to plan. Because I know the actual hunt itself is usually a 2 to 3 day event, like you said, but
Yeah, well, I'm just going to say it all
something you
depends.
pull off in 15.
You know, I would definitely not skimp on planning. I think there's emphasis on planning. So I would download, whether you're commercial or industrial, the guide. It will walk you step by step through planning. Also, the COVID PDF on it details planning in the COVID environment. So I think mainly those are best. Their checklist approach. I would leave half of it out if I tried to remember it. So uh, I would say start off easily with a 90-minute or a 2-hour discussion, just walking through all the points and the bullets of the guide for industrial or commercial and the COVID-19. Ideally, too, download the Leslie's co-branded action workbook. Even though it says small business, it is well worth buzzing through it because they're just ideas that are universally applicable. So, you know, I think I would go at it that way. You know, don't skimp on planning. You know, look at what the guidance is.
And I know you touched a little bit on who should be part of the energy hunt team. Do you need to have knowledge of looking for energy savings, or can it really be anyone?
Well, you can kind of look at this a couple of ways. One is the classic treasure hunt, as I understand it from industry, was really enlisting non-technical people. But I think if I were, you know, at a manufacturer, I would certainly not overlook what my technical experts had done. I would want my green team, say of non-technical experts, to be fully aware of what my facility managers and maintenance people had done. Uh, you know, you know, some of the reports might be overly technical, but what you might do is call in, you know, your facility manager and any of that team just to informally talk. Not, you know, don't put them on the spot for a formal presentation, but get them in to chat with the team. There's nothing wrong with them being on the team, but you really want to kind of get outside of what a professional energy person or facility manager might do. You want a little bit of the outside the box kind of thinking and looking around that the non-technical team might do. But absolutely don't overlook any technical talent. Just don't, I would say don't let them run the show necessarily. You know, the way to get fresh eyes on it is, you know, having people who haven't already done this, you know, who don't already kind of know too much. Because when you do get into this, there aren't dumb questions. There are any questions valid. You know, why is this way? How's this work? What's wrong with that? You know, so.
Awesome. So if anybody else has any more questions, please feel free to either raise your hand or post it. Like Jerry mentioned and I said, I'll be sending out the link to where some of these documents are that Jerry is referencing that can download. He also sent me the COVID kind of tip sheet. Are there any highlights off of that sheet, Jerry, or any lessons learned from companies that have conducted an energy hunt during this time that stick out in your mind of things that worked exceptionally well?
I'll mention a couple I've been involved in, and as the you know, small business and worship facility guy, I'm involved right now with a group called the Detroit 2030 District. There are 21 some cities around the country that have what's called a 2030 district. These are organized by the American Institute of Architects, and they have an efficiency and greenhouse gas goal for the year 2030. So in Detroit, they have decided to focus on multifamily housing and on houses of worship. Their approach is interesting, and I'm on a monthly call with them. I'm very impressed. They have pulled together with local folks, lighting expertise, HVAC expertise. These are volunteers who they're organizing between 6 and 10 inner city houses of worship to do treasure hunts. So they're going to do it COVID safe, but what they're doing is they're starting off with portfolio manager benchmarking. So each house of worship will know, well, gosh, we're already a 50 or we're a 30 or we're a 60. Tells you a lot very quickly. And most facilities can get an Energy Star score. The next thing is they are going to do their walkthrough and mark the treasure map, and they're using, of course, House of Worship treasure map, maybe with a green pencil, a pen, if the congregation has already done this thing, and then maybe either nothing or a red check if they haven't done it. It's still an opportunity. So they have really bought into the idea of recognition of success. So when the congregation has already done something right or done something really effective, the Detroit 2030 district up front is going to do some recognition for those who've already done something good. And that's reflected in your portfolio manager score as well. If you've already done something. And here's a point on portfolio manager. If you haven't used it yet and you're thinking, well, gosh, we did a big lighting upgrade 2 years ago, and if I do portfolio manager on the last 12 months, I kind of don't get credit for that. Well, you can actually go back and benchmark 2 or 3 years ago. You just need your utility billing data and whatever was the situation, say, of hours of operation, et cetera, for that period of time. So you can create an older baseline if you want to recapture. And if some of you are, those of you who are energy experts, if you're consultants, this is a great way for you to take credit for what you're achieving for your clients, but then it's really an EPA calculation in our software. You put in correct data, it's going to show your client what you've achieved for them in energy, water savings, and greenhouse gas emissions. So it has that benefit on both sides of the relationship, whether you're providing services and products or whether you're, the consumer of services and products. You have objective scoring of your building and your greenhouse gas emissions. Really, there's so much that Energy Star has put together over the last 20 plus years. I urge you just to go to energystar.gov and start looking around. Use the search engine, maybe for your facility type, or for lighting, your special interest. For example, we have 2 full-time lighting people on staff. We have a woman who does nothing but commercial food service equipment, working with manufacturers. We have a guy that is the hospital guy. So we understand that getting in and knowing your industry or knowing your facility type is very important. So we have a lot of institutional knowledge at Energy Star, and we like to we'll maybe ask another partner if it's okay if we give you their contact information, that they've had a success that you might learn from, or you might have a problem or a question. So we try to operate in a very open way and share information.
That's great. We've got another question that came in. It says, could you point to any tools or training to help streamline data entry into the portfolio manager tool? So okay. For example, she says ECAP software can be set up to streamline reporting. Is there a list of software tools that can help automate data entry, especially for smaller businesses?
I don't know about, who is your utility serving you, those of you there generally?
Our utility company is Evergy.
Okay. I don't know for sure. We do have, we call it web services, and there are service and product providers, and there are utilities who provide what we call web services, which is easy downloads of the efficiency information. If trying to think of the right search metrics, I tell you what, I will follow up and send Leslie some links to more information on this topic of easier downloads into Portfolio Manager. It's not something I work with particularly, but we do have a team leader for service and product providers and utilities. The guy who does that knows all about web services. I think if you search at EnergyStar.gov for web services or data download, you'll find some things. But I will send Leslie some links that'll get you there. And that's a great question. We get it a lot. Thank you.
And I think I've mentioned this to you before, Jerry, and everyone on this webinar is probably familiar with this, but Kansas City does have an ordinance that requires commercial or industrial buildings to benchmark every year and to use Portfolio Manager for that tool. And Bridging the Gap, we actually are involved in partnership with Evergy in helping businesses comply. So if you are, somebody that needs help with filling out Portfolio Manager or with getting connected with Evergy for taking advantage of rebates or anything like that, we can definitely help with that.
Great. I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, there's getting to be a large number of cities across the country that in their own effort to contribute to controlling greenhouse gas emissions, but in the process, help their local economy, because once people get involved with Portfolio Manager, you typically see savings once people have a better handle on managing energy and water costs. I might mention in Portfolio Manager, if you're not already there, in addition to energy and water, there's dozens and dozens of types of materials for materials management, tracking, and recycling that you can also take care of in Portfolio Manager. So it's a good kind of a one-stop tool for sustainability.
All right. So I don't see any other questions. Jerry, if you want to check and make sure I'm not missing anything. And while you're doing that, I just want to really encourage everybody to go to the EPA Energy Star website and look at all of these resources. There really is. I was blown away by all of the resources and tools. A lot of work has been done, and there's some really robust and meaty documents in there that will really help you through your process. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. If you are thinking that an energy treasure hunt is something that you, your organization would like to do, the Green Business Network, we would love to hear about it and work with you. And of course, I know Jerry is making himself available as a contact and a resource as you go through that process as well. And also just to remind you, for all of your sustainability goals, energy, waste reduction, please remember to reach out to Bridging the Gap. We hope that you will join us for our next webinar on April 1st, where we're talking about the Regional Climate Action Plan. Energy is a huge part of that plan with some really high goals to reach. So we'll be looking at that. And yeah, I just want to remind everybody that I will be sending out all of the links, and I'll be posting a recording of this webinar also on our website. It'll probably take me a day or two, but look for that there if you want to come back and reference anything that we talked about here. And Jerry, thank you so much for spending the afternoon with us and telling us all about energy treasure hunts. And I will wish everybody a good rest of the day, and hope to see you in April.
All right.
Thank you.